Hello guys, welcome to the fifth lecture of our Cursor for Beginners series, and in this video we'll actually understand how we can understand code and also document code. Okay, so let's start. So let's get a quick overview of the lecture. So in this video we'll learn how to make sense of unfamiliar code using AI. We'll reduce guesswork when reviewing old or complex code. We'll auto-generate clear documentation inside the editor. Okay, so what will happen is basically I'll show you a very complex code, and then what you can do is you can use Cursor AI to explain the code that is written inside that. Okay, so let's go. And what will happen is some confused developer, and there is a lot of code, and you can use Cursor AI to understand that code better, and also you can document stuff inside the in code from inside the editor. Okay. So why documentation matters? It's very important. Documenting your code is very important, and big companies always have a very good documentation around the code that they have written or around the product they have written. What happens is when new employees come, right? So they need to understand the code very quickly. Otherwise, it can take very long time to understand the product, right? So this is what we call as onboarding in the new companies, right? So onboarding becomes a lot faster with good documentation. It saves time when revisiting, right? So for example, some employees have been on a break for let's say 1 month or 2 months or have gone out. And then when they come back, it becomes very easy for them to just go through the documentation, understand the product a lot faster or understand the changes a lot faster, right? So it prevents mystery code in the future. Sometimes when you're writing code and sometimes you don't really know how these things are working, but you can just write a piece of document there that, okay, this is something that I'll revisit later. Or if there is a lot of really a complex code, you know, at that point of time, but maybe in the future you'll forget about it, right? So what you do, you document some things around that and write that, okay, this particular line of code does this particular line of thing does this. So this documentation actually onboarding becomes faster, saves time when revisiting, and prevents mystery code in the future. So this documentation is more about the clarity of the product or clarity of the code. Okay, so what we'll do in this lecture, we'll also demonstrate this. So let me quickly just tell you what we'll demonstrate. So understand code with AI. So basically we'll have some raw code. Raw code basically means only the code part is there. Okay, and there will be no comments and all, and then we'll try to work with Cursor AI to understand the code better. I'll explain you some workflows and adding comments inside that, and adding documentation for the code as well, right? So we'll start with raw code, no comments, nothing. We know that method names in the code, right? Whenever there's function or the function names, it gives hints, but logic is not always clear, right? You can just write some kind of a Fibonacci function, complex Fibonacci function. You are inside that using caching, you are inside the recursive function and all those things. So function names gives you some clarity, but logic is not always unclear, right? So we'll select a function, use ask, explain this. We'll ask follow-up questions with AI to deepen our understanding of the code. Much faster than line by line reading and debugging. And this is what we used to do earlier, right? When there was no code AI editor or something like that. What we used to do, we try running the project first. And when we're running the project, we'll try to go line by line and see how the values are flowing and how is my understanding correct. You will validate it. You will read line by line and go through that, right? Now with the AI code editor, you can just ask Cursor to, summarize my code and all those things. Okay, AI can explain whole classes or modules. Project wise questions also you can ask for big picture view. Okay, so let's go to my Cursor editor. And what I've done is inside this I have opened one folder, code and docs with AI, right? And inside this I have a file called as employee.py file, and this is a very complex file, right? This is what the file looks like. Now it's if you see here, this is a lot of code, right? And it's very difficult to kind of see what the things are happening. And then what I have to do is, like, I have to use my brain a lot, put a lot of pressure on my brain to understand this code, right? What I can do is I can just maybe let's say copy this code, or maybe just select this code, and then I can press Control K, I think Control K, not Control K, but Command L, right? Command L in Mac, or you can know in Windows it will be, I think, Control L or something, right? So this will open this entire selection in the chat mode, and then what I can do is I can ask my Cursor AI to explain this class to me at high level, right? So I'll just ask Cursor to put all the selection as a context inside this AI pan, and it will basically go through this code to get me a quick explanation of what this code does. Okay, so let's see Cursor, what Cursor generates the summarization for us. And it's the high level overview. This is very good, right? What it is: a rich domain model for an employee with strong validation, computer properties, and business rule and encapsulated methods. It also tells you like what data fields are there. So basically identity, contact, right? Job details, compensation, capabilities and work, performance and HR, extensibility, validation on creation, computed properties. So there are a lot of details that it has created for me, and I get to like a very quick understanding of what this project is doing, right? So this is how you can do, or maybe you can just now you have read through this and you're going through a simple function. Let's say let me just move my left pen outside, and then what I can do is I can maybe copy this function, right? Adjust salary, and I want to understand that, hey, what does this function do? So you can see here add to chat, right? So you can press Command L. If I press Command L, so it will add it to my chat, and then I'll say explain this, right? And usually when asking AI to explain me the code, you don't have to use the agent mode. You can use the ask mode as well. This ask mode is really good at explaining the code. So I'll do this. So let's do this, explain this. Although for the class actually I use agent mode, but you generally for explaining the code a little better, you can use the ask mode. And this is what the ask mode is done. It has selected this function, and it has given me details about the function as well. What is the purpose of the function, and different guards are there. Basically, I am throwing different exceptions at different point of time, and what is the effect is, right? So computes, if validates, sets this salary. Okay, so this is about explaining the code. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch back to agent mode, and I'm going to say, hey, generate. I'm going to select all the code and then press Command L. So it will add it here, and I'll say generate comments for this code, right? So let me just enter this, and this time I'm using agent mode because I'm asking someone to generate things, right? So that this is most about edit mode or adding stuff to your project already. Okay, so what I'll do, the agent will scan the file to prepare precise docstrings and add concise, helpful docstrings to the class and methods without changing logic or formatting. Docstring is basically nothing but for each function and all, what parameters are getting passed and all those things. So based on that, it tries to generate some documentation. This is really useful. So let's see what Cursor does for us, what kind of documentation it will generate. And let's wait for maybe 1 or 2 more seconds, and it should be done by then. This is a really long class actually. This has like 270 lines of code and actually no comments here. So it will be very interesting to see what Cursor does for us by generating all the documentation. Let's see. Okay, so looks like Cursor has done generating a docstring for us. So basically I can see that for each at the file level, it has added some good description at the top, right? So I can say keep it, fine. Then I can see for each class as well, it has added some docstring. So I can say keep it and keep it. And the interesting part is, since there are a lot of things and you can just quickly review them one by one, this is what you should do, or you can just say keep all of them, right? So if I do keep, so it will basically accept all the changes. Now if I see this is really good, right? A lot of documentation has been added at the class level, at the function level, and what I'm seeing is not a lot of parameters is kind of added in the documentation. It does it? Adjust base. Oh, it has added here. So this is also very good, right? And after adding the documentation, this is what it's suggesting. Would you like me to include parameter return type details in the doc strings using a specific style, Google, NumPy, or REST? I'll say no, it's fine for now. It's fine for now. Thanks. Okay, so this is how you can generate documentation for your code, and we have been able to generate high-level documentation for the file as well. And what we can do is we can also ask at a project level documentation. So what I can do is I can just open my Node.js Hello World app, which we generated long back. So what I'm going to do is ask my agent, Cursor agent, to generate a documentation for the project, right? The project can be really big, and I want to understand like what this project does. So what I do is, hey, what does this project does? Please generate a small summary for this project. Let's ask agent to do this. You can maybe we can also try ask mode here also to kind of go through this project and help me generate a documentation for this. So this is what it's doing, is going through the package.js app.js file, or basically going through all the files that are there in this directory, and is trying to give us a project summary. And this summary is really good, right? At the project level, you can ask a lot of things about like what does this project do, and you can get a very quick summary of what does the project actually is doing, right? So this is what it is, and this looks good to me. So this is what we wanted to do in this basically project wise questions, and AI can explain whole classes or model. This is what we did, and as you can see, this is much faster than line by line reading and debugging. Now I'm going to give you one very good demo of like how I usually go for this understanding. Okay, I have gone through asking cursor that, hey cursor, explain me what this line of code does, what this line of code does. They are good, but you usually want to really put it in your mind through small examples to how what this code is doing, right? And this is what we call as usage examples. So what I'm going to do, so this is something we have already done. Add docstrings and commands will ask AI to create usage examples. So let me just go back to our code here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this again. So command A for select, and then command L for putting it as a context in the chat mode, as you can see here. And now what I'm going to do, I'm going to say, hey, generate usage examples for this employee class. This is really important. Okay, so basically what it will do, it will basically it's like writing unit test cases, and basically how your class is behaving, each function in the class, how it is behaving, right? So I'm going to just press enter. So what it's going to do is going to go through this class entirely, and then it's going to write different functions like full name. What does the output of full name comes to? Tenure, days, latest rating. And then what you can do, you can run that file, let it generate. Then what will happen, you can run that file to understand the output of this class a lot better. I'll show you what it means. So let's just do the let it do this work. And what it has done, let me just open the left panel. So I think it has added in this only. So what I'm gonna say to this is add this in a file called as employee usage.py. Okay, so what I wanted to do is basically all the usage examples that is generated above, add this in a file so that I can run that file and then work with those examples, right? So let it add now it is adding runnable usage examples for the employee class in the employee usage.py, organized into small demo functions and a main block. This is what I want to do, right? So that when I run this main block, I should be able to understand like what full name returns, what tenure days returns, so on and so forth. Okay, so let's see. So we have the file here. We can say keep, not gonna review much. And then what we can do now, we can go to terminal, new terminal, and let's just clear this, and then we say, let me move this out and minimize this a bit, and then we can say Python 3 and employee usage.py. Now if I run this, let's run this, and these are the kind of output that we are getting, right? So now what you can do, you can go through these functions like what it is doing, right? So you can just say, hey, create employee examples, then printing this full name, tenure, days, and this is what the output is coming, right? This is what the output is coming here, right? This is employee name, tenure, days, and this is how you can understand the project a lot better. Very quickly understand, like when you call this function or when you call this thing on employee class, this is what the output is coming. And after creating this employee object, right? After calling this employee object, this is what the output is coming. So you get a very quick picture of like, from this print, this is what I am getting inside my terminal. So this is how you should understand the code a lot better. Cursor AI makes it very easy to generate these simple examples and following through those examples to understand and document and commenting your code a lot better. Right, so that is it for this one, and we can also generate a README file for documentation. You can, for example, ask this Cursor AI to kind of generate a README file or markdown format file for this file, and then what will happen, you can just commit this code on GitHub, and whenever some project overview and all those things, you can add those in the README file. We have done this in the last project, right? In the small Hello World app that we built using Node.js. Okay, so that's it for this video. This was a very interesting video where we generate documentation, comments, and try to understand code a lot better using the Cursor AI. Okay, so I'll see you in the next video where we'll learn more about Cursor. See you. Bye.